Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's conversation with Dr. Ron Malka, the Ambassador of Israel. India and Israel have a fairly special relationship, and for many years I used to say that Israel was our favorite mistress. But I noticed that we have all come out of the closet and are much better for it. For the average Indian, the Israel relationship sort of revolves primarily around defense and security. But I think we should open up that relationship, and we should look at how the relationship has actually opened up. Israel is actually one of our premier partners in agriculture, which is something most Indians don't recognize, but many farmers across the country do. And this year, and I think leading up from last year, we are focusing, the two countries are focusing on water as the big challenge and the big diplomatic, political, economic focus of both countries, which is amazing when you come to think of it, because whatever else Israel is or isn't, it is actually a water superpower. And I, at least in my job, I see teams of Indian officials from the newly created Jal Shakti ministry sort of hot-footing it to Israel over and over again. And I presume we will have a story that we will be able to tell you, but I will leave that for Dr. Malka to say today. An area which he has actually sort of started in cooperation between India and Israel is actually finance and fintech. He's a rare ambassador who's also a finance guru, and
Thank you so much.
Knows a lot more about it than certainly I do. But I will leave Dr. Malka to tell you a little bit more about why finance, quantum computing, and water are the new horizons for the Israel-India relationship. We would like to talk more about the defense and security relationship, but as you all know, over the years, as every journalist in the city has tried and failed, we don't get anything on the record, but we do not stop trying, so we will try here today as well. Dr. Malka, over to you, and please welcome once again to another Aspen.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can
first of all, thank you, Danny, for your kind introduction, and thank you for having me here. Well, since I was asked, I made a short presentation about, we called it Fountains in Finance. So I'm going to talk about our expanding relations, which are now are more and more about water and finance, as Invani mentioned. And after that, I will leave the floor just to questions and answers, whatever you'd like to hear from me. So, yes. Okay, I will stand here just for the presentation. So, I will start with the domains of cooperation, because the relations between India and Israel are steadily growing from year to year, and now became and reached new and new heights. And what is very special about those relations that they're spread very broad their extent, and are touching almost every domain of our life. So we started with, I'd say, very basic relations of buyer and seller with some products, security and others. But now it's getting much, much, much more than that. So what started with some security relations, as I said, expanded to agriculture, education to innovation, homeland security, cyber, health. We used to say that, talking about our relations, the sky is the limit, but not anymore, because now we cooperate a lot on space, There is a big scope for cooperation in science and technology. Think that out of 5 nations in the world, all the world that reached the moon, 2 of them are Israel and India. So think what is the scope of cooperation that we can do in science and technology. So even the sky is not the limit. And of course, energy, tourism, cybersecurity, as I mentioned, and so on and so forth. So now, what we are going just to promote and to advance, to focus, and maybe in more priority is going to be water and finance. Water, because now we understand that the water stress is something that is emerging all over the world. It's considered as a risk, a strategic risk sometimes. Water scarcity can create geopolitical destabilizations. And of course, water is, I would say, a basic need that everybody should get and should be able to access and to get good quality drinking water as a general. And Israel is a proven concept. Israel overcame its water challenge. So since Israel and India are close friends, we declared a strategic partnership in water. And what we are going to do is just to share all our achievements in water technology, water management, all sides of the equation, and I will just elaborate in a few minutes, and bring it here to India to share it, of course, with our Indian friends and make the adjustments that are needed in order to meet the challenges, the specific challenges of India. So now with this combined and specific new Jal Shakti ministry that is focused on water and has all the authorities just to meet and to overcome this challenge of water, I'm very optimistic about the fact that India is going to overcome the water stress. As I said, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We are here. We are the friends, close friends of India, willing and keen to share all our achievements and, of course, to share all the mistakes that we did through the way. So you don't need to commit India. We don't need to commit those mistakes. And that's why I'm so optimistic and I'm positive that India is going to overcome the water challenge. Finance is another thing, and I will elaborate later. So the Israeli water story, what is it about? So Israel created just a few months, so we declared our independence a few months after India. And we started from a very, very low starting point, especially when we were talking about water. Israel is mostly desert. 60% of Israel is desert. The rest is semi-arid. And not only that, but due to climate changes, in the last 70 years, the annually rainfall dropped by 50%. The population in Israel grew up 15 times since our independence. In the last 70 years, 15 times. It started with 600,000 people, and now we're reaching about the mark of 9 million people. So 15 times. And still, now we have abundance of water. We have enough water for our needs, and we even supply water to our neighbors. So this is something that we want to share with the world. As Rani said, we are considered as world leaders in water technology, water management. It's a holistic approach, and I'm going to talk about it with the next slides. So the vision of our first Prime Minister, Ben-Gurion, was to bloom the desert, making the desert bloom. And how do you make the desert bloom? You just, through innovation, creativity, develop the right technology and techniques that will enable you, and that's what we did, to grow agriculture in the desert. So what we did is, as I said, with a holistic approach, we did the advances on both sides of the equation, on the uses, but not only the uses, but only with the sources. We enhance the sources of water, and we make the users of water much more efficient. That's how we overcame With this holistic approach, we overcame the water challenge, the water stress in Israel. So, on the side of the resources, what we did, we enhanced rain. We worked on rain harvesting, so we gathered as much rain as we could. We desalinate seawater. Israel now desalinates more than 80% of the water that we use for drinking and urban usage, more than 80%. We even desalinate brackish water. And recycle. Israel recycles now more than 90% of the water that we use. So we enhance the sources by desalinating, and after using this water, we reuse them, 90% of them, for agriculture, industry, and so on. So this is on the side of the sources. We enhance the sources quite dramatically. On the sides of the usage, we made it much more efficient. So it started with a cultural approach. We consider, when we defined ourselves as a water respectful culture, we respect for water. We value water. We understand the value of water. It starts with our education and the consciousness, the awareness of the importance of water. So we say that every drop counts. This is what we teach our children. I remember myself as 50 years ago when I was just a little child, my parents telling me every drop counts, every drop counts. You should save water. Water is precious. We are saving water, using water efficiently, only to the extent that we need it, that it's necessary, not more than that. So it's embedded, it's deepened in our consciousness. We did an extensive effort to measure water, to know exactly how much water we have in each part, in each place, in its water body, and we did all our efforts not to lose any water by harvesting and preserving water and conducting water, transferring from one place to another. We did everything we could, measuring water in order not to lose any. Now we reached the point that in transferring water and conserving water, we are not losing more than 2% of the water that we use and transfer from one place to another. It used to be 40% and more than that. So we enhanced the amount of water that we get, and after that we just know how to preserve it, to conserve it, and even when conducting and using, not losing any, just what is really necessary. We use different techniques of using water efficiently. So drip irrigation was invented in Israel. By drip irrigation, the usage of water is much, much more efficient. We got to the point that 95% of the water that we use for irrigation are consumed by the plants. We've even improved it lately with implementing technology of what we call precision agriculture. So we use drones and satellites to monitor the fields by the accuracy of pixels. So we can tell what the exact amount of water each part of the field needs. And of course, fertilizers and neutralizers. So we became so efficient in using the water. And we use other, I would say, other equipments and techniques like plastic mulch that enable us, to use the water in a more efficient way, not letting it evaporate, and other techniques that improve the usage of water dramatically. And water conservation, culture of saving water, the awareness, the consciousness of saving water. We did these campaigns from time to time just to educate and to remind the people the value of water, how precious water are. So everybody knows and aware that we should save water and consume it wisely. And about the water partnership. As I said, we declared a strategic partnership in water. So just lately, we shared some conventions, conferences here about water. We brought our experts. So about just lately 3 conferences that we shared with the Minister of Jal Shakti. I was there, one of them I was moderating. And we brought our expert, as I said, just to share, to expose our achievements, our knowledge, our techniques. There was a conference of 1,200 water managers from 256 districts here in India that are those that suffer from the highest water stress. So it's called the Jal Shakti Abhiyan. We took part of it. We brought our experts. We were the only country that was partnering this mission. It was Israel. So we brought our experts and we've been there and we just shared with those water managers from those districts all our achievements and techniques. We made the engagements, the connections, and then it follows late after that. And just lately, the Jal Shakti minister with his staff and with other ministers and professionals, water professionals, went to Israel to a special conference that we dedicated especially for India. Every year we have an international conference about water, which we just bring all our experts, the leading companies in water technology and water management, and we just share our knowledge and achievements with all the world. But this year, we made another event, especially dedicated just to India. We seized the opportunity that all the experts and the leading companies are there with their representatives and so on. And just for those, with this delegation that came from India, it was a very, very successful conference. Just today in the afternoon, I met the special assistant for the Jal Shakti minister, and we just shared what the achievements of this conference, and we are going to follow up this, and I'm positive it's going to be a big success. And as I said, I'm very optimistic about the fact that India is going to overcome the water stress and the water challenge. As I said, we have a proven concept. No reason why it will not happen here now that we know that we are close friends, willing to share, to work together to make all the adjustments that are needed, and no reason why it will not be a big success. These are the pictures of the 2 ministers which just met last week, the Minister of Energy and Water from Israel, Dr. Yuval Steinitz, and the Minister of Jal Shakti, Mr. Shekorat. So they decided to work together as a steering committee, and we have working groups for different domains. And as I said, I'm sure this partnership is going to be very, very successful and rewarding. Even now, in the last years, many companies and initiatives in water, joint ventures and projects, different projects all over India by Israeli companies and Israeli officials are there in many, many places. And as I said, it's only the beginning, and we are going to enhance and expand it as much as needed. We understand, as I said, that water is a very important issue, crucial issue, and we are here just to be part of this success, the Indian success. We are mostly going in this partnership to address 3 vectors: the generating of water, integrated drip irrigation, which makes the usage of water, as I said, very, very efficient, and advanced agriculture, which is the best on the leading technologies and methods of agriculture using water efficiently. So we are going to work on all these domains. And this is what I wanted to say about water. And if you will have more questions, I would love to answer after that. Finance. Well, finance is another domain. As Mrs. Indvani just mentioned, I come from this background. I'm not originally from the Foreign Service, and so I came from the financial markets from Israel. Before that, I was a military, and I served 25 years in the Israeli military, and I retired as a full colonel. My last position, I was the financial consultant for the chief of staff And after that, in the financial markets, I was chairman of investment funds and of the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. So I come from this background. I have many friends and colleagues there. So I said, since we want to expand the business relations between our two nations, we want to see joint ventures and want to get aligned with the vision of Prime Minister Modi of make in India, and we want to make with India, and after that to export together with India, from India to other countries, because we understand that since India has the vision to reach the point of $5 trillion economy within the year 2024, which we think is some objective that India can reach, it has to expand its exports. And we want to be part of this success. This is now, in a broad perspective, the moment of India. And we want to be part of this moment. Israel had its moment back there in the 90s, when we grew up very rapidly, and now we are considered an economic success. Even though some will call it a miracle. Now it's the moment of India, and we want to be part of it. In order to be part of it, we want to joint venture, we want to be part of the production in India, the research and development in India, the design in India, and then to export together with India to other countries, because the vision of making in India is so natural for Israel, it's so appealing and attractive for Israel, because Israel is a small country, full employed. We have a shortage. We even suffer from shortage of manpower on all levels, skilled and unskilled workers. So for us to come to India, to make in India and with India, is so natural, works so well, so fruitful. So we want to expand it, to do as much as we can. And in order to support this process, we want to facilitate and to make a free flow of funds between our two nations, which means to engage the financial markets, to coordinate them, and to make them work together. And once we'll get this cooperation of the financial markets, once we'll see free flow of funds between our two nations, this will support the business sector and will make the ground much more attractive for investors and businesses to come to work together, because they need the support, they need available funds. Once we'll make those funds available, once the procedures, the regulations will be coordinated, we will ease the way of doing business, the process of doing business together between our two nations. So this is the main idea, and we're working on that, and it's eventually, like in other domains, connecting the right people. Engagement of the right people, and when we find this spark that we're looking for, the chemistry, the rest follows. So let's see what we did and what we want to do in this very important domain, which is something new now in our partnership. So as I said, we want the vision or the idea is to integrate the financial markets in order to facilitate free flows and attract bilateral investors and businessmen, coordinate regulations which facilitate this process, and share the best practices. So what you see here in this slide is the engagement that we did just lately. So on the right part of the right picture on the slide, this is the governor of the Central Bank of Israel, which visited India and met his counterpart here, the governor of the RBI, Mr. Das. And they had a very good meeting and decided to work together, to cooperate in the future. And he is also there in the picture in the middle with the supervisor of the banking system, the banking branch in Israel, which is an expert for banking. And she also met her counterpart here. And they are going to work together on banking management, procedures, regulations, methods of banking management, and strengthening the banking sector and making more funds available, reducing the cost of capital. We have a lot to share about that. I can tell you, generally speaking, that many challenges that I see here now in India, that India is challenging, look so familiar for us because we've been there. We've been there, we are facing the same challenges, so why not sharing the message, the experience, the success, the achievements, and the mistakes. How we can strengthen each other and help each other to facilitate processes. I would say it's very exciting how much our challenges are so similar and how much we can contribute to each other. And of course, we see here Mr. Das, the governor of the RBI, the meeting that I had with him, and it was very fruitful, and we are going to do a lot in this domain. And just lately, 2 weeks ago, there was a visit of a delegation from the SEBI, the Securities Authority of India, to Israel, to their counterparts, and here in the middle of this picture is the chairman of the Israeli Security Authorities with her staff. And what really enabled this meeting was the meeting that I met with the chairman of RBI that was willing to share and to cooperate. And later on, he met the chairman of the Israeli Security Authorities, and they found that there are many issues and domains that they can share and cooperate and strengthen each other. So they decided to work on dual listing. Hopefully we'll see in the coming future companies that are dual listed in the Israeli Stock Exchange, Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, and Mumbai Stock Exchange. We're talking about mutual investments, so we engage investment funds from Israel and India together. And also we made the engagement of the CEOs of the stock exchanges. So they are now working together, sharing knowledge, practices, and ethics of working, which will then enable later to coordinate the processes, and as I said, will support the dual listing and other free flow funds, methods or techniques of free flow funds, which are so important to support the business sector and make the ground more fertile for it to grow and to thrive. So we also, of course, in many conferences in different domains that we engage business people, companies, just to work together to joint venture. They meet each other once there's chemistry and they decide to work together. This is something that we are trying to promote. We have 3 trade attaches here in India. One is here with us in Delhi, in the embassy in Delhi, one in Mumbai and one in Bangalore. They're working on the level of business to business, trying to engage those businesses to work together. And as I said, this cooperation in the financial field will support this process. The road ahead is just, as I said, in a very creative way, since we don't need to be an expert to see the potential, the huge potential that is there for cooperating and collaborating together. We just try to figure out what will be the different formulas to enable, to facilitate this process in order to tap the huge potential. So it can be in government to government level, business to business level, people to people, individuals with individuals, and of course, government to business levels and state governments. So we're trying to figure out all kinds of formulas that will work and will enable us to have more and more partnerships and contracts and agreements between companies, governments, and whatever can help and enhance and expand these fruitful ties between our 2 nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Malka. You had once spoken about Indians being able to invest in Israeli stocks and vice versa. How far has that process progressed?
Well, it's progressing. It takes time, since every company that wants to enlist in another stock exchange need to go through the process of due diligence. and has to get the permission of the investors that already are the stakeholders of this company. So it takes time. But we are in this process. So eventually it will happen.
Right.
But we are there.
A second thing is India and Israel have been negotiating an FTA for some time. What is the, I mean, is there light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, actually just lately I think that we're starting to see a light in this tunnel, because I think between Israel and India, free trade agreement can be fruitful and rewarding for both sides, because Israel is, as I said, small economy, small country, no threats for Indian producers and I said even farmers from free trade with Israel, because there will not be a flood of products, cheap products or services from Israel to India and vice versa. So I think for Israel and to India to collaborate and to have a free trade agreement will be a very good idea. Right. So we are working on that. I think that even India internalized that, and I think we'll see that also coming.
Do you have a date? Do you have like a date, like a timeline for this?
It won't be wise to get to anticipate this, because this is kind of processes that you start and you never know how much, but it's on process.
Ambassador Malka, there's there is the economic relationship and the tech relationship, and but there is also a political relationship. And could you give us a sense of where the political relationship, with all its other dimensions, with the security dimension, the defense dimension, could you give us a sense of where we are, the two countries? Because Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu are actually close friends, and I watched it firsthand when Prime Minister Modi was there in 2017. I'd like you to give us an update, if you will, of where we are in the bilateral relationship.
As I said, we are facing new and new heights of our bilateral relations, a new and new record. So every time it's a new record and a new record. So our relations are steadily expanding, rapidly expanding. As I said, with new domains, and with every domain we go deeper and wider. And the relations now are so wide and so deep and so strong. And those are relations between two nations that find so much success, so much joy in collaborating in all these domains. So now I think that it's a given concept, and it's not something that is related to those individuals or parties or any other frames, because it's true that there is good chemistry and good relations between our two prime ministers, and it really helps and supports these relations and even push them forward. But then now, in the stage that we are now, our relations are going to expand and to deepen without any reference to any developments, political developments in each or any country. So this is something that is there within the two nations. There's chemistry, there's such successful collaboration, and so I'm sure that this is something that we are going to see in the future, irrespectively of what will be the political developments in every country.
So you talked about political developments, and in your country, of course, I think you might be headed for yet another election. Many in India would like, given what we saw in Maharashtra the other day. But if you could also give us a sense of how Israel looks at, or are there any implications in Israel, and I don't bring India into this, but after President Trump made that announcement about settlements, what's been, I mean, does it affect relations? Does it affect the peace process? Does it affect your relations with other countries? How has it been in Israel? I mean, apart from the obvious, yes, we welcome it.
Well, this statement of Prime Minister, we just put it in the right frame. The statement of President Trump is just a restatement of President Reagan in the early 80s, which already made this statement. And until the last administration of Obama administration that changed it again, it was there. So now we're just going back to this same statement that was there before. And it still remains to be seen what is the implications of this statement, because it's a statement. There's nothing there on the ground. As everybody understands, there is a conflict, and conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. And this conflict should be solved between Israel and the Palestinians. So no other entity or agency can solve or can interfere and can make any judgment of these relations. And these things should be solved within the two countries, and between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and not with anyone else.
So we also look at, if you could also look at Iran. As Iran recently announced that they would breach yet another part of their commitment of the JCPOA. Given that the US and everybody walked out of the JCPOA, do you blame Iran for going nuclear, overtly nuclear? And what happens between Israel and Iran as a result of this?
Well, first of all, I should say that from our point of view, Iran and what happens now with the Iranian people is a sad story. Understanding, and knowing, I can tell you as an economist, the great potential of the Iranian economy. This Iranian people that we really, I would say, appreciate with their heritage and intellectual history and heritage, such a great potential that is just, not there. And to see the economy of Iran performing so poor and coming to the stage that it is now, a recession that is deepening and deepening, and to see the Iranian, I would say, citizens paying 150,000 riyals for $1, and now needs to pay 50% more for each gallon of oil and gas, although they have abundance of it. You understand that the economy of Iran is just much, much poorer than what it could perform otherwise. And it's just due to the fact that the leaders of Iran took the wrong track. Until 1979, they were on the right track, and they took another track, the wrong track. It is not in the favor of their people. Hopefully they will change it and will focus on the right, because we now see in all the Middle East, but not only the Middle East, those economists that focus on innovation and technology are those economies that perform better. And now Iran taking this path of expanding the Islamic revolution, which is like voices from the Dark Ages, instead of focusing on progressing and prosperity and economic developments and providing to their people. This is a sad story. And hopefully we'll see the Iranian leaders changing again the track, going back to the right track, and focusing on the needs of their people, providing what they can provide, and tapping the great potential of this great country that can be very, the economic success.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malka. Thank you very much for taking the time to answer so many questions. And thank you for a lovely presentation. And have a very good evening, everyone. Thank you all.